In this rather long video we look at no less than 4 Wrenn mechanisms and how you might go about servicing them. Okay, bit of Wrenn workshop time. We have here my Wrenn 8F, had it for many years, and the job today is to remagnetize the motor magnet in here and also check to see if the ball bearings are in place at each end of the motor. So there should be one there and one up under there. So it does require stripping down the motor. Now, for anyone that's got Wrenn stuff, this will be second nature to you, know what you're doing. You have to remove the brushes and the retaining springs, and then undo these 4 screws around the side, and then the motor slips apart. Making a note of which way in the magnet is. Re-magnetizing the magnet will be done once the motor is fully assembled on these 2 faces of the magnet in the machine, which I will show you later. So let's get stripping down this motor and have a look what's going on. Okay, so we've stripped down the motor a bit, and straight away this is what happens when you do so. The ball comes out of the bearing and is stuck to the end of the armature shaft. The bearing is in there. This is the screw one that you can adjust. So that's something to be cautious of. So anyway, we're pleased to see that that ball is in place. That's the other end, which I suspect may not be. Okay, so we have removed the armature and we're now looking at the bearing at the other end. Now, probably not fantastically easy for you to see on the video camera. If there was a ball in there, then these pair of tweezers with a small neodymium magnet on the end would fetch the ball out, no problem at all. And there isn't one there. Plus a visual inspection shows, when I look through my magnifying glass, that there is no ball to be found. Fortunately, I have these new ones, which I have just purchased. It's around about £2.99 for a pack of 10. And they're high grade steel ones. The only caution I got was that you must keep them lubricated. Well, of course we all do that, don't we? So what I'll do now is fit one of the new balls in the other bearing and then reassemble the motor. Okay, the ball bearing is in place. If you lost one like mine, you probably have to wind out this adjuster quite a lot to make space. What you're aiming for is just a little bit of movement back and forward in the armature. There's not quite enough here at the moment, so I'm going to slacken the bearing off just a little. It's difficult to do it on camera and keep everything still. So it's just a case of slackening this off. Remember, when you tighten the locking nut, you'll probably reduce the slack. And you're aiming for free movement and just a little bit of end-to-end play, which I've got there now, so that's fine. So the trick now is to do up the locking nut without letting that turn. There we go, motor's running. It's a good idea to spend some time getting this adjustment at this end just right. What you'll find is as you gradually tighten it down with the motor running, you'll reach a point where it sounds a bit chattery, as if it's wobbling, and then just as you tighten it a little bit more, the motor speed will slightly increase. And if you tighten it any more, it will begin to slow it down, which is what you don't want, so you have to back it off a bit. If you fiddle about between the screw and the locking nut and just keep turning the screw back a fraction, then tightening up again, you'll find that you'll reach a nice sweet point, which is hopefully where I am at the moment. So I'll just show you the remagnetizing process and then put the loco back together. We'll have a quick test run. Okay, well there's the remagnetizer machine. Now it's recommended to remagnetize with the magnet in situ, with the armature and everything in place. But you can do that because this is the places where the poles need to line up. But first we need to find which is north and south. Easy way to do that, use the supplied compass if you've got the Ronald Dodd remagnetizer. And south points to the south pole, and amazingly north points to the north pole of the magnet, and the north pole goes in there. If you do it the wrong way round, you'll reverse the direction the motor runs. So there we are, you can very clearly see what's happening. There's the north pole. So let's get the motor and magnets against the pole pieces. I shall hold it up a bit higher with my fingers when I've got both hands free, but that's the motor magnet against the pole pieces. Now if you press the button you'll see them shoot forward. And that's the magnet remagnetized. As you can see, she is super smooth, apart from stumbling over the Hornby point there a little bit, which is probably more to do with the point. She's quite capable of low speed. She's drawing 170 milliamps, which is a tiny amount for a great big motor like that. Before the modification, she was around about the 300 milliamps mark. Now that means your armature is going to last longer. And also you can drive Wrenn locomotives with flimsy modern controllers. Yeah. As long as they've got an amp available you're okay, but the point is that 170 milliamps is very low for a motor. Almost on par with a modern Bachmann or Hornby tin can motor. So you've probably seen in the background I have a West Country and a 4MT to look at next. Now the West Country needs exactly the same modification if you've just seen me do, because it's got the same motor. And this fella, I'm just going to check that its bearings are all in place, and then we'll have a look at all three of them running. And maybe a bonus Wrenn loco. But I'm definitely pleased with that. It's probably better than she's ever run. The West Country's been done just as smooth, but remarkably only 140 milliamps. Here's the Wrenn 264 mechanism, which featured in my other video, which you probably saw when I was trying to get her noise sorted out. Now when I opened her, she didn't have any ball bearings either end. Now whether they were never fitted or I can't actually remember having the motor apart to the point of taking the armature out before, but maybe we did. She's been with us many years, but funnily enough, now she's got a ball bearing both ends, silky smooth. Does draw just over 300 milliamps, but that could have simply been a motor type. We'll have a try with her in a minute, and I'm going to do the re-magnetizing. Well, once again it will be in situ, and it's quite easy to get at either side of the magnet there. Here we have a Wrenn R1 class in Southern Green, number 1127. Now this model actually dates from the Hornby 00 era, 1968, which was then taken over by Wrenn. So it's quite an early one, but let's have a listen to a run. So she is running. Apart from when she sticks. Oh, there we go, we're actually around about 500 milliamps. So we'll open her up, recharge the magnet, do any servicing that's required, and then come back. Wow, what a good old mechanism we've got in here then. So a motor not unlike the Hornby X04, but obviously different. We've clearly got the bearings down this end and that end. I don't know if there'll be a ball bearing in there. Magnet actually feels quite healthy. We got the suppression system, very old capacitor there. Let's just have a look at it flicking over. There's a lot of dirt and dust. She's just come out of store, so not a lot's been done to her. Right, let's have a good look and see what can be done. I've desoldered the motor from the chassis connection, and just check that that's not too bad. Now that's alright, I'll give it an oil round, and on the workbench we have the motor. So standard procedure, we will remove the brushes and clean them. They don't look too worn. We will clean the commutator grooves and give it a polish with a cotton bud. And then we'll check the bearings. It feels quite good actually, but we'll have a look. Okie dokie, now the motor has been done. I've checked the bearings both ends and the balls are present in both, so that's good. The magnet was remagnetized in the way you've seen. I did have to remove the bolt, but kept the magnet within the frame of the motor when I remagnetized it. Remember, it's important to magnetize in situ. Anyway, the motor itself is pulling around 150 milliamps, which is more than acceptable for a motor of this kind, and it now sounds nice and smooth. Minimal grinding noises. The commutator has been cleaned, so all that remains to do is fit it back in the loco and see how she runs. Right, here we are with the motor back in the loco. Oh well that's different, isn't it? Let's have a look at the current. 200 milliamps thereabouts. So there we have a lovely little R1 class by Wrenn. Originally the South Eastern and Chatham built the R class, as they were, in 1887. They were designed for shunting and local goods. They were built by James Stirling and outshopped from Ashford. Then they were rebuilt to the R1 class from 1910 to about 1922 by Wainwright, and shared some similarities with his H class, but they carried on doing light duties and shunting. Good capable little 060 from the Southern. Well, you've probably spied this Wrenn Class 20 in the background. Now there was a time when I was ready to give up on this engine. It just wouldn't run properly. But as you can see, we now have a degree of silk. Now it was so complicated, there were around about 4 different faults, all preventing her running. She was very erratic running. In the past she'd always been one of my smoothest runners. But I got her out of the box, ready for this video, just to do the magnets and that, and she ran terrible. So let's whip off the top and I'll talk you through what I did. Now, after basic cleaning of the motor like we've just seen on the R class, the R1 class, and checking the bearings, she still ran dreadful. Now, I was initially led to the trailing bogie, which picks up on one side and feeds back by the wire you can see to the motor, and the motor picks up through its chassis and feeds itself. So I added a lump of lead, as some people have done, to try and ensure better connection. This didn't work, so I removed the lump of lead, as it would just act as a burden on the engine. I then discovered that the brushes, the brush arms themselves, had developed some sort of corrosion. It wasn't green as you might expect, it was a sort of just a dark colour, and this was actually preventing contact between the brush itself, brush arm, and the spring. So they were polished up with some wet and dry. I then discovered that the wire that ran across to the trailing bogie had a crack in it about midway, so that was replaced. I then discovered that we didn't have a decent connection here, so temporarily for now I've just soldered the wire to the tip of the brush so that we've got a definite connection. So we did all that, still no good, ran dreadfully. Now what I did discover when I dismantled the trailing bogie, you have to undo these side screws on both sides, and then you can slip the wheels off with a little bit of force. Carbon had built up dreadfully on the axles and in the bearings. This is probably from old oil from years and years back. So a very light whiz round with some wet and dry and re-lubrication, and I was able to get absolutely 100% contact running there. The same was true of the motor bogie, but I didn't want to dismantle everything, so she went into an IPA bath, the IPA solvent electrical cleaner that I've used before on the Lima stuff. If you want to see the bath and the use of that, you can check out one of the Lima service guides that I've produced, but basically sat it in there, gave it a good old vibrate for a long time, and all kinds of muck came out. Dried it off nicely, always using one of my air sprays as you use on computers, ideal for cleaning up locos. Put it back and she now runs a treat, absolutely perfect. Looks a bit funny without the body though, doesn't it? Anyway, it's now time for the running session.